Networking. Lori mentioned this, and I can't emphasize it enough. Find out if your child is going to someone else's house. Not only find out if they're going to be home, but if they're actually going to supervise the event. You really want to know that, and you can't expect your child to know that. Of course, they're going to tell you that someone else's parents are going to be home. You have to make that phone call.
Yeah, my parents call people's houses when I tell them I'm going, and I'm 18, so don't feel bad doing it for your 14-year-old son or daughter.
And I think when you do that, the person whose house they're at also really appreciates that. There may be 2 or 3 of the attendees that didn't tell their folks that might not appreciate it, but really that's their issue. Your issue is to keep your child safe and to keep the environment that they're in safe. And so calling the parent and saying, hey, Elizabeth just mentioned that she's going to be at your house Saturday night. Thanks so much. I'm going to send, some chips and dip with her. It gives you a reason to call. It also lets your daughter or son know that you're going to be on top of things. And it also creates some connections for you with those other parents.
And it's also okay to host some things at your house, but do not host these large parties, because you just don't want to take that responsibility of having an awful lot of kids at your house who you do not know. I would just say really try to avoid it, but have those nice things. Have pictures for homecoming at your house. Have the team over for a team dinner. Those are certainly okay, but these large social parties, I would try to avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah, and as a kid, I think that your kids will kind of act embarrassed if all their friends come over and you introduce yourself to them. They're gonna be like, don't talk to me, whatever it is, like what teenagers do. But I mean, speaking for, I've gone to Mrs. Orr's house before, and it's really nice to have a relationship with people's parents and be able to go over there and say hi, how's your, have a conversation, as opposed to just having a bunch of kids show up at your house and then just disappear, and then you don't know you just don't even know any of their names or anything like that. And from a kid's perspective, it's really nice to have that relationship. If I'm at school and she had a reason to be at school, I can see her be like, hi, Mrs. Orr, how's it going? And it's a good interaction. It's a good way to work on talking to adults, and that's kind of important. So.
And I know that all of your kids do this, but please encourage them that when they go to a house, they shouldn't walk in the house without saying, would it be all right for me just to introduce myself to your folks? And they may think that sounds corny, but you would appreciate it. And I'm surprised at how many kids do come up and say, oh, Mrs. Swart, thanks so much for having us over. Or my mom said to tell you hello, or whatever. Encourage your kids to make contact with the adults that are in the house when they go in the door.
And when they do come over, keep bringing the popcorn and the chips, and keep walking around the room and just keep finding ways to engage with the kids who are there. Honestly, you cannot bring enough food into that room.
Yeah. Or get another roll of paper towels.
Something I mentioned earlier about buying books. You're going to be able to find the ISBN number under quick links on the DHS website, and that will be a way for you to look at buying some textbooks outside of DHS. And I would encourage you to think about, if you're going to buy books, think about a second set of books. Some of the books are really heavy. Biology, world history, we just keep adding more pages to those books. So they're very, very heavy. I would encourage you to think about purchasing a second set to have at home.
And some of them are online too. I think all the Pearson ones are online. And the teachers will figure it out, And that's one thing that teachers do a great job of, is they'll say, for instance, if you're in bio or physics, or you have that really big textbook, the teacher will say, okay, on Tuesday we're gonna need our books, but if it's Wednesday the week before, you can take it home that night and do all of your homework and not have to worry about bringing it back and forth to school.
Don't schlep it to class every day.
Don't.
Your teachers will let you know when you need it.
Isn't the word schlep awesome?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's heavy.
Think about how often you are going to schlep to Deerfield High School with things that your child forgot at home. I would encourage you to do this almost never, starting next year. Try to avoid it. If they know that you're home and available, and they forgot their lunch, or they forgot, their uniform or something, please try and say, you know what, this was your responsibility. You need to take care of it. So try not to show up at DHS with their stuff. A really important point, a lot of our freshmen are already 15 or close to 15. They will not be able to take traffic safety as freshmen. So you need to think about when normally they take it either sophomore year with us. Sometimes they'll take it in the summer between sophomore and freshman sophomore year, but they cannot take it freshman year. So be looking at the calendar for their 15th birthday, because now you have a 9-month period where you need to give them driving experience. So it's kind of a whole calendar year deal now, something to really look out for. We talked about watching Infinite Campus. You're going to see on Infinite Campus, grades get posted, assignments get turned in, grades come along. Try not to sit on Infinite Campus like 10 times a day. It's not good for anybody for you to continue to watch Infinite Campus. Maybe once a week would be a really good idea to check in on your kids' grades, making sure they turned in assignments. I think once a week is probably a good place to start.
Now there's no notifications.
Yeah, they turned that off.
I would add to that too, we kind of have a rule in our house that's called, it's okay to check in, just don't be an Infinite Campus stalker, because there's nothing more annoying than that, I'm sure, if you're a student. So we've kind of said, you know what, you let me know how things are going. As long as you tell me, there's no reason for me to go on Infinite Campus. If I haven't heard anything for a week, 10 days, I may take a look, and you'd much rather be the one that tells me than having Infinite Campus tell me.
Well, and I think that one of the things that people start to panic is like a teacher maybe during one of their free periods will put in, so they have to put in what the assignment is and how much it's worth so everybody gets it. So now they could be only gotten through half the period of entering, and they had to go or they got a phone call. So now they didn't get a chance to put your kid in yet, but it was just their one free period and they were doing it. So now they have a 0 because they got to half the class but not to you yet. And so then when we get those panic, why did my kid have a 0? Well, I was putting half of it in and then my phone rang or a kid came in and needed help. So, like, please understand that if you're checking it you got to give it some time. Sometimes they don't get to put the whole class in, and that's why it may come up as a 0. It doesn't mean that they have a 0.
Yeah,
It just
very quickly, just whatever the situation is, the kids know how the Infinite Campus works for every class. Some teachers never put stuff in. Some teachers are really good about it, really bad about it. Ask them, let them explain it as opposed to trying to freak out about it, because there's always an explanation for it. That's all I can say.
I know we're starting to run out of time and we want to get to your questions. I think the one point, and I've written all these things down, but the one point that I really want to leave you with is enjoy your child's high school experience. Don't wish it away. There's a lot to know and a lot to be involved in, and you're going to be at the high school an awful lot. Enjoy it, and enjoy it with them. So thanks for having us.
Anybody have?
Thank you to all of our speakers here on our panel. Does anybody have any questions?